I can't stand him on Sunday. And if he scores a goal, I'll be like, you absolute prick. But he is the best player in the world at the moment. All right, your owners might not be great at times, but your standards are bang on and your football is bang on. And it pisses me off. And I get more frustrated when we play you because you're our biggest rival and I can see the gap. If I've got the opportunity to see Ronaldo in a United shirt, I don't care if he's 44. Come back. You know, it's fantasy. It's not logical, but it's fantasy.
Earlier on today, I was joined by my good friend Mark Goldbridge of the United Stand. We had a little look ahead to the game at the weekend. We spoke about Solskjaer's position. We spoke about how United can get at Liverpool and vice versa. And we also went through and did a full preview of the game with score predictions as well. I hope you guys enjoy it. But before we get straight to the video, just want to let you guys know again, proud to say that this video has been brought to you with thanks to our friends at manscaped.com. You can get the Performance Package 4.0 or anything else at manscaped.com with 20% off and free shipping by using our discount code WFM20. Manscaped products are used by millions of men around the world, and the Performance Package features the Lawnmower 4.0, the Weed Whacker Era Nose Hair Trimmer. Both of those bad boys are waterproof as well, ready for you guys to use if you want to use it in the shower. If you want to get a little bit romantic, I'm not here to judge, ladies and gentlemen. You also get the ball toner and the ball deodorant, the boxer briefs and the shed travel bag as well. Look, 20% off, free shipping. Maybe treat yourself to an early Christmas present or a little something for that special somebody in your life. You can use our code to get free shipping at 20% off. Thanks to our friends at manscaped.com. Lovely to be joined by Mr. Mark Goldbridge ahead of what is the first of two massive games between the two clubs this season, Mark. And it feels like the season's been longer than it has, but how have you been?
Yeah, good. Well, I'm not good in relation to Manchester United, but personally very good. Happy to be on. It's always nice to talk and not have to be the presenter, although I know you're going to be on the United Stand, so I will have to do that at some point. But no, it's good. I don't know where I am with United. To be honest.
Yeah, God, there's a lot I want to unpack, mate, in this little conversation between both clubs. And, you know, there's been some people saying there's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doing what Jurgen Klopp has done, take 2-3 years, build something. I mean, there's so much we can go through, mate. But look, I want to just quickly touch on last night. I think it's fair to say that last night's brilliance, and it was attacking brilliance at times, might have masked over some real deficiencies tactically from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. That's the way I look at it from the outside.
I think the thing for me is, and I've said this before, it's that as much as I don't want to admit it, Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp go to Atalanta or Watford and play the Liverpool or Man City way. They've got a style of playing and it's very proactive. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is a reactive manager. He will, whoever it is, whether it's West Ham, Southampton, Liverpool, he will look at the way they play and he'll go, let's keep it tight and try and hit them on the break. And if you play counter-attacking football, the clue is in the name, counter-attacking. Someone's got to attack us and be proactive for us to counter them. And the only way we get to see what United should play like, which is how Liverpool and Man City try to play and be proactive, is if we go 2-0 down and it's like, oh shit, I'm going to lose my job. Or, you know, and this has happened many times. It happened at Southampton. It happened at West Ham last year. It's happened against Villarreal. It's now happened against Atalanta. The only time we're on the edge of the seat and enjoy United is when plan A has gone absolutely terribly. And it's like, oh, just go for it now. Just go for it. And that to me is why I would sit here and say, cracking result. Absolutely loved it. Pure escapism. But God, we don't have an identity. We don't have a plan. And the coaching is terrible. And there's no hint that we're ever going to get a plan because we only ever play well when his plan's gone wrong and he just goes, just go for it. Go for it.
From the outside, when I watch United play, and look, they have it in their locker for the comebacks. I spoke about it in the stream I was doing last night, saying, look, that's in their DNA. That's in the club's DNA. It's in Liverpool's DNA and European nights as well. So we exchanged a voice note, and I said to you, I'm not surprised you guys came back and won that game. We knew we had it in your locker, and I think you're right. What I see from the outside is Solskjaer's plan not working, and then he just empties the bench of any attacking talent that's on there, brings on Cavani, just empties the bench completely. And for me, it just looks like he's trying to put square pegs in round holes at times. And I think there's one attacking player too many in his setup. I think 4 is a little bit too many, 4 attack-minded players. I just don't think the players nobody wants, to be honest with you. And I don't say this to take a cheap shot, because genuinely, I look at that Manchester United squad, mate, and I see a squad that with a capable manager could do better. But then I wonder, am I being a bit of a hypocrite because last season you finished second in the league? But to me, that felt like a false position.
Well, most of the season, I mean, you lost a very good home record to Brighton, Burnley, Everton. I mean, that's not Liverpool. I mean, look, our away record's not a proper away record because you're playing behind closed doors. And losing a home record, the whole point is that you've got a massive amount of Liverpool fans in a cauldron that is Anfield that's intimidating. So, you know, you had loads of injuries last season. And how many points did you end up finishing behind us? Now, we had a very consistent season and finished second. Chelsea only started in January. You had loads of injuries, and yet you got very close to us in second. So we were in a false position. We were definitely good enough to be top four, and you can't take second place away. But Liverpool had big problems last year. I mean, for Liverpool, be honest, you were over the moon. You got top four. To get top four,
mate, I'd given up.
Yeah, salvaged a terrible season, and that ended up being a positive.
I still, if somebody sat down to me now and said, explain how you came third in Premier League last year, I still don't know, mate. By the grace of Alison Becker's head, that's the only thing I can think about. But I seen a stat earlier on today, and it really made me think. Since Jose Mourinho was sacked by United, there's been a £300 million net spent at United. Now, I'm not saying this in a derogatory way because I'm well aware that Manchester United financially are very capable and very well-run club in that regard. So the money isn't really where I'm going with it. It's just, how has there not been a huge progression? Because, you know, I don't think it's fair to judge Sancho as an example. Yeah, I think any player that comes into the Premier League, whether he's been here before or not, needs a season. And I would say that about anybody that goes to any club. I don't like, especially young players being written off early. Sancho's a talent. We know he's a talent. He's going to come good. Varane, his CV speaks for itself. For me, the bad money has been the 80 million for Harry Maguire, stuff like that. And the fact that, look, Maguire's a good defender, mate. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he's not Premier League caliber, that he shouldn't play for Manchester United. But I think the price tag has had its toll, and it's just opened him up to ridicule as well. And I think that how you got Ronaldo in, you got Varane in, you got Sancho in, but the one position that you, I, and the dogs on the street knew United needed to resolve was centre of the pitch, and it just wasn't sorted, and I'm baffled by that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think with Sancho, it's not his fault. He's come into that team and started on the bench. People will call him a flop, but who buys a player like that and then puts him on the bench and says, earn your place? It's baffling. The money should have been spent on a midfielder. You're absolutely right. Our midfield is a joke. Fred and McTominay, for me, are no better than Southampton's Romu and Ward-Prowse, and they're mid-table. Well, not even mid-table, are they? So there's a complete imbalance in that team. Again, it goes back to coaching. There's been a huge amount of money spent, and it goes back to standards. And look, I had my little tit for tat with bloody on Twitter with Gary Neville, and I don't want Gary Neville or Paul Scholes or Rio Ferdinand to say Ollie out. But it's very clear to me and many United fans that there's a hypocrisy around the standards at the club. 3 years ago, Jose Mourinho has been hounded out the club because it wasn't good enough. And it wasn't good enough. I wanted Mourinho to go. Not being a hypocrite. I wanted Mourinho to go. 3 years ago, I did. And people were saying on TV, ex-players, it's not good enough for United not to be fighting for a title with all the money he's had, the resources he's got. 3 years later, white noise. Oh, he's got to do a bit better, but Europa League and top four would be fine. And it's like, it's very, very rare in life, in football, that you can point to something 3 years ago and go, they were saying this, now they're saying this. That's a graph down. The standards are on the floor. And you're right. Lots of money's been spent by this manager. And I mean, look at Donny van de Beek. You'd take Donny van de Beek now. Probably wouldn't start for you, but you get a lot more.
No, I agree.
You get a lot more game time at Liverpool and Man City. Can't get a minute. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer comes out with after the Atalanta game, don't need him at the moment, but he's waiting if I do need him. And when he does get his chance, I hope he takes it. He bloody had his chance. He played against West Ham in the Carabao Cup, was one of the best players on the pitch, and he hasn't had a minute since.
Can I tell you
the huge question marks?
The one decision that really made me sit up and think, hang on, what is he at here? Is that there was even a conversation between David De Gea and Dean Henderson. I could not, for the life of me, understand that. Okay, we'll all admit David De Gea went through a little dip, but that's going to happen over the course of a 6, 7, 8 year career at a club. Still now, to me, if I mention top 5 keepers in the world, David De Gea's name's in there. And he just showed again last night with some very big saves. He's I don't get it. I don't get how that could even be an argument.
Somebody is going to have to go to take Player of the Year off David De Gea already. Like, it's not even last night. It's Wolves. It's Leicester. He's been so good. And I know Alisson's a fantastic keeper, and no Liverpool fan's going to say he's better than Alisson. But I'm telling you, he is absolutely at the best he's been, and he's world class. And the reality is, if Dean Henderson hadn't got COVID, he was going to be the number one. Again, massive question mark over the coaches that they think Dean Henderson, who's never played in front of 75,000 people for United, had a very good season for Sheffield United, is now the goalkeeper for Manchester United in a pivotal season. I mean, I don't know what they're smoking, but I tell you what, they're high. David De Gea David De Gea last season against Roma in the semi-final was world class. It defies logic. Some of the decision making. How do you bench Pogba to play McTominay and Fred? 2 weeks ago in the Nations League, the video's there of him at half time leading the French team from the midfield, and he's on the bench. And look, I don't mind benching Pogba. Sometimes he needs benching, but we're benching Pogba. We're not using Van der Beek. We're not using Sancho because they don't know how to use them. That's the eye opener. They don't know how to use these players. And Jurgen Klopp would, and Pep Guardiola would, and Zinedine Zidane would. I sound like I'm Ollie out. I'm not Ollie out. I'm genuinely not Ollie out. I'm fuming about the standards at this football club because they're nowhere near where they need to be. And we're about to play a club in your club whose standards, all right, your owners might not be great at times, but your standards are bang on and your football is bang on. And it pisses me off. And I get more frustrated when we play you because you're our biggest rival and I can see the gap.
Yeah, I won't lie, Mark. This is probably the right time to play United in my eyes, but I'm also been around long enough, and so have you, to know that, there's been times where you've been walking the Premier League and we've shown up and thrown a spanner in the works. That's what happens.
I don't think you'll beat us, mate. I don't.
I think it's going to be a lot harder a game than a lot of people think. I think,
It's a derby.
I wanted to touch on one thing with you before we get stuck into the game, and that was, did the return of Cristiano Ronaldo maybe did it buy a little bit of goodwill? If things quietened down a little bit between the fan base, because look, let's be honest about it. You were all over the moon with it, and I completely understand why. I mean, from a parent's perspective, let's say Robbie Fowler came back to Liverpool and my son was a bit younger. To be able to say you get to see him with me, what I see might not be the same player. Okay, fair enough, but there's a lot of goodwill to go along with that. So I just wonder, because I heard there's some demonstrations maybe ahead of the game on Sunday, which is absolutely football fans' right to do so. But I just wonder, has it masked some of the deficiencies?
I don't know about any demonstrations. I mean, for years we've heard about demonstrations. Sometimes 1,000 turn up, and sometimes 3 people turn up. So I can't comment on that. I can comment on Ronaldo, and for years, for every summer for the last 6, it's probably even the last 10, Ronaldo's coming back. And it gets to the point where every time I've said bring him back, I mean, I remember what he was like in the first period, and he's one of the greatest players to ever play the game. It's an absolute fantasy. And even when he was like 34, people going, he's too old. I'm like, mate, we're only here once. If I've got the opportunity to see Ronaldo in a United shirt, I don't care if he's 44. Come back. It's fantasy. It's not logical, but it's fantasy. But he's still at 36, an amazing footballer, and it's totally logical to bring him back. It's a shame. I'd love to be in Ronaldo's head because he's a focused winner. And the contrast between the club he left and what he's walked into, I cannot believe for 1 second he's not thinking, what's gone wrong here? Now, as a professional footballer, you might think, I'm going to be the man to get it back. He will back himself to do that. But yeah, over the moon to have him back. And I hope we can deliver the platform he deserves, because I think you put him in a Liverpool team, a Man City team, he probably wins you the league. He's as a number 9, I don't think he's really got any peers, really. I know people talk about Lewandowski and Harry Kane and Haaland, but you saw that header on Wednesday. He's just something else, and he's evolved his game. And but he needs service, and that I don't care who's up front for United. He does need service, and that's something we've not been very good at for the last year or so.
Ahead of this game on Sunday, I have to say I've never seen Mohamed Salah in better form coming into this one. I mean, the goal he scored against City was followed up with another absolute worldie, and I could probably name you Liverpool's starting 11 now ahead of this game because they're almost picking themselves, to be honest. But one thing I would say is Van Dijk hasn't yet returned to the heights that he has, and from our side, I think Joe Matip's probably been our best defender this season. He's been absolutely fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to it at the weekend, mate. And I think it's going to be probably Alisson, Trent, Robbo, Van Dijk, Matip. The interesting one for me is, will he play Thiago? Will Thiago be available? Because, he didn't travel over to Madrid. He's remained at Kirby getting some training done. And I think that this is, a raucous Old Trafford is ideal for Thiago. So I would hope to see Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago, and then probably the same front three, Mane, Firmino, and Mohamed Salah. It's fairly straightforward. From your side, I'm wondering, is he going to put out McTominay and Fred? Because I actually don't mind McTominay, I've got to say. I think McTominay is a little bit better than people give him credit for. And it kind of reminds me at times the Jordan Henderson debate that we used to have. People said he could only pass sideways or backwards and stuff like this. And I think Henderson was massively underrated. Now, I'm not saying Scott McTominay is the greatest midfielder in the world, but I'd have him on the pitch ahead of Fred.
See, I wouldn't, and I get to watch him every week. And there's United fans who will agree with you. So, it's all about opinion. Look, Sir Alex Ferguson, Michael Carrick, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, they're far better minds than me when it comes to especially what they see. But obviously he's a very good player, and obviously he's very highly rated. And I spoke to Ben Foster twice, and he said we came home on the bus and everyone was saying how powerful he is. I can't dispute the fact that lots of people talk very highly of him, but I've very rarely seen him have a good game. I don't know whether we're playing him out of position. I don't think he's a holding midfielder. I think he's a box-to-box player. I think he's a powerful player. And obviously playing as a holding midfielder, you're not going to see that. But I don't know. I do think he'll play McTominay and Fred, yes. I think you probably start the team that he started the Atalanta game with. So it'd be Greenwood and Rashford with Ronaldo and Bruno behind, and then McTominay and Fred. I personally think Sancho and Rashford with Ronaldo, Bruno, Pogba and Fred is our best side. But look, the Atalanta game, he goes with a plan A to try and hit them on the break. He goes 2-0 down, so he has to go gung-ho. He brings on people like Cavani and Pogba and Sancho, and we finish the game creating chance after chance after chance. Liverpool, he'd be an idiot to go for it against Liverpool. So I think he will go counter-attack again. And this is the problem with United, is you can pick your team at Liverpool. You know how you're going to play. I can't tell you what my team's going to be because we are reactive. He will be thinking, how do I stop Liverpool but then try and nick a goal? And in that sense, I think he will try and use Rashford, obviously. He'll think long balls to Rashford against Trent. He'll think set pieces and things like that. But you're right, Salah's fantastic at the moment. And I also think for Liverpool, I mean, you're obviously you're a Liverpool fan. A draw in the context of the season is not bad for you if you go and win the next two after that. A draw at Old Trafford's fine. Beat us at Anfield, you're like, that's fine. But it's interesting, isn't it, with the African Nations Cup, that you're almost racing against time to get as many points as you can before January. And therefore, United are vulnerable. So Klopp might be thinking, well, a draw is normally a good result. But if we get a win here, that gives us a couple in the bank for January when we haven't got our players.
Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about you guys sitting back soaking and then playing on the counter, because there's been a couple of occasions where Rashford's gotten in behind both against Leicester and against Atalanta. And I'm thinking, where did he come from? First of all, like his timing of the runs.
Long ball FC, mate. That's what it is.
But it can be effective, mate, particularly when you're playing us who, and again, I would say similar to maybe Manchester City, like our fullbacks to bomb forward. And if we don't have somebody like Jordan Henderson who steps in to cover Trent, there can be spaces there. And that's where, I think you're going to target us. I think most teams target us in our fullback.
Alisson is so good, though, isn't he? He's such a good sweeper keeper. That's the difference. We tried to do that at Anfield last year. We put Rashford through the middle when you didn't have your centre-backs, and that was the plan. Hit him on the break. But every time we tried it, Alisson was like a sweeper. He was just there every time. So it is difficult to do, but it's definitely a plan. And it's so basic. It's such basic. And this is the problem with United. The coaching is so suspect that any coach can say centre-backs, try and hit that ball over the top. I mean, when I used to play amateur football, I used to play centre back a bit, and it's so basic because you try and pass the ball and everything, and then they've got a player who just whacks it over the top for their striker to run onto, and if they get it right and they're quicker than you, you're in trouble.
Yeah, it's got to be interesting to see how they both line up because, this is the game where the United players are going to be up for it. Liverpool players are going to be up for it. I'm intrigued by the refereeing appointment, I have to say. I don't think Mike Dean should be refereeing Liverpool games. I don't think Anthony Taylor should be anywhere near Manchester United games. But
I can't stand him as a ref. And I think he's the worst referee. I don't know whether we get favoured by him, but I mean, look, God, at least none of us are Chelsea. I mean, he bloody destroys. I just think he's a bad referee. I don't rate him anyway. So I know Liverpool fans are worried because he's from Greater Manchester, but
it's more Stuart Atwell and VAR that has me worried. If I'm being honest, he really doesn't like us, really. And look, I've respect for Anthony Taylor because of what he did in the incident with Christian Eriksen. I'll always have some regard for that incident.
Nobody dislikes the individual. This is an entertainment business, and his job is to referee. No one's saying they're not going to go for a pint with him. I think people get lost in this. Football fans are very passionate. I can't stand any Liverpool player on Sunday, but I would acknowledge Mo Salah's the best player in the world at the moment. So I can't stand him on Sunday. And if he scores a goal, I'll be like, you absolute prick. But he is the best player in the world at the moment. It's competitive, it's rivalry, and the man in the middle is an enemy or a friend, and that's the way it is. You can't criticize. How do you
feel about Salah's wage situation at Liverpool, by the way? Because for us, 350 grand a week, let's say, just to split hairs, is record breaking stuff. Can we afford it? Whereas for a club like United, Real Madrid, Barcelona, 350 grand, that's contract signed and done. So I just want to get an outsider's take on it because, as you said, I think we'd all agree if he isn't the best player in the world right now, he's certainly right up there. And we know he could go to PSG tomorrow and get £500,000 a week. So I just can't see any way that Liverpool don't get something done with him.
I think Mo Salah is a unique player in the sense that most people I speak to, obviously a lot of United fans, respect him. And yet he plays for a club we don't respect. We do respect Liverpool, but we don't like Liverpool. That's the way it's meant to be. But I've always said this. It's a bit like Son, but Mo Salah's so much better than Son. Son and Mo Salah don't get the respect they deserve. And I think it's because they come from countries that are not the traditional footballing countries. If Mo Salah was Brazilian and, he was, had the personality of a Neymar, he'd be on every advert, every cereal packet, the best player in the world. And he doesn't get that. And I think it's because he's Egyptian and it's not, and his personality is not that as well, which is credible. But realistically, if he was at Real Madrid or PSG or Manchester United and he was Brazilian and he did have the personality of a Neymar or a Pogba, which is nothing wrong with that personality, by the way, and they had the agent of Amino Raiola, he would be saying, I want 600 grand a week. I want 500 grand a week. And he would be worth that money. The fact is, to his credit, he's at Liverpool discussing a 350 grand a week contract. And if he signs it, that's clearly something to be proud of as a Liverpool fan, because it's like he should and can point to the fact that he should be on £500,000 a week easily. And the fact that
he genuinely understands the fact that, as you've said, I think you've alluded to, he's really loved and he's comfortable and he's well looked after at Liverpool. And, the club are very respectful to his international commitments. And I think he finally sees, Mark, that, maybe what Coutinho did, what Suarez did, or what other players at other clubs have done. There's something about English clubs. If Liverpool fans or United fans, they really take it to their heart. You're a goddamn legend, mate, at that club. And you can go back there for 20 years.
He's a footballer. Who's his agent? I don't know. I know who some
Remy Abbas. He actually doesn't have an agent. He has a solicitor who advises him, Remy Abbas. But yeah, apart from that, you don't see him in the headlines too much.
He's a footballer. It's a bit like Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, I know he earns good money at Man City, but again, he's a footballer. He's a footballer. He wants to play for a great coach in a great team that can get him to win or compete for the greatest prizes. You get some footballers like that, and you get some footballers who want to move every couple of years, get the big deals, move about, and make it about them. And Salah clearly isn't about Salah FC, is he? He's about being the best player he can be in the best environment he can be in.
Yeah, I think he knows the team's set up for
players like that.
I think he knows that the team is set up around him to get the best of him with a manager who really likes him. And I wonder, is he looking maybe at Jurgen Klopp's contract being up in 2024 and thinking to himself, you know, will Klopp still be here? Who will I be on with? But my argument is right now he's got 20 months left on his deal. Every week, month that goes by, that valuation is going down. So for Liverpool, for the owners, even if you sign him up for a 4 or 5 year deal with no intention of committing those 4 or 5 years, you're going to find a buyer for him in 2 or 3 years, no problem. So it's a no-brainer to me for him to get it done.
He's very fit.
He certainly is.
And Ronaldo's playing at 36, so people say, oh, he's getting close to 30. I mean, what's 30 now?
Well, look, like Ronaldo, again, I throw James Miller into the hat. They look after themselves. They live the lifestyle of a professional athlete. I remember reading a really good story when Ronaldo came back to United. Apparently Friday in the canteen at United is treat day, and nobody touched the brownie or the apple crumble because Cristiano wasn't touching it. And they were like, oh, I'm not going to be the one to go over there and look like, you know, I need my sugar fix. He lives his lifestyle, eats in a healthy way, and that's allowed him to have the longevity in his career the way he has. And I think that's now rubbing off. And the days of the Monday clubs and, you know, the fish and chips after the game and all that, that's all well gone. We're lucky we got to live through that, I suppose, and see some of the old lads. But before I let you go, Mark, a prediction for the game at the weekend.
Draw. I know it's boring, but if United lose, I've said if United lose, I won't be there going like some of these prats, oh, get him out of my club, Pete. I won't do that to Solskjaer because he doesn't deserve that. But if we lose to you at Old Trafford, we've taken 1 point from 9. That would be 1 point from 12. I would have to say after the game, he's got to go. He's just not the right man. He's not good enough. With the players he's got, you can't have 14 points from 27. You just can't. He'd have to go, especially with Man City to come up in 2 weeks. So I don't think I'm going to be saying that on Sunday night. Don't know whether I'm going to be going in the mud, Craig and Liverpool, get in the bin. I'd like to. So I think I'm just going to go, these games can be quite tight. And I'm aware that Liverpool have scored 3 goals for the last year away from home or whatever your record is. And I'm aware that, you know, we've got a crap defence and everything points to loads of goals. But I actually think it'll be a very tight draw. It might get won by a dodgy penalty or something like that because those things can happen. But I think it'll be a draw.
Yeah, I'm going to hang off on my prediction. Maybe I'll end up giving out the United stand actually when we record there in a while. But look, Mark, it's been lovely to catch up. It's been great to for us to do the talking rather than the internet to do the talking around anything as well, because God, people love a fucking beef, mate, and it just doesn't exist, as I've always said. I'm like you. If I have anything to say to somebody, we'll say it behind the scenes, we'll shake hands, and we'll talk about it like adults. And again, nothing but respect for you and your team at the United stand, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come on, dude.
Thanks for having me on. Really enjoyed it. And we will have Craig on the United stand, like he says, and looking forward to it.
Cheers, Mark. And look, you guys, don't forget, hit the subscribe button, drop a like on the video, and let us know your thoughts on the game.